Hey, what's up guys? John from Mongo Fishing. Today I want to talk to you guys about how I fish for schooling fish. You know, it's mid-August right now. You got schooling bass that are starting to, I mean, they're still summer, right? But they're starting to get that sort of mindset of the fall where they just feed up and gorge themselves. And you can kind of find them in the same places. They're starting to go to the mouths of the creeks. They're still open water, but they're starting to go to the mouths of the creek and just gorge themselves on itty bitty shad. And so I'll show you guys how I do it, you know, the baits I throw, all that fun stuff. And like I said, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm out here on Lake Ouachita today, and that's what I had fun doing, was catching schooling fish. Some of it's on camera. I think most of it's not on camera. I really didn't feel like filming this morning. I brought the cameras just in case, but you know, I probably caught a half dozen fish before I even turned the camera on. So anyway, let's get into it. I'll show you some of the baits I use, etc. So here we go. All right, so first off, a walking bait. In no particular order on preference or anything like that, but I will get into some of the baits that I don't like to use, or I don't know, some of the little nuances that I don't really like to do. This right here is a Yo-Zuri walking bait. I cannot think of the name off the top of my head. I'll try to put it right here somewhere after I look it up again. But anyway, Yo-Zuri walking bait. Again, brand is kind of irrelevant for the most part. But I will have a handful of them because they have different sounds. And so I'll typically have that Yo-Zuri. I'll have a Strike King KVD Sexy Dog Jr. Has a little higher pitch rattle. A Dual Realis Pencil 110. This is actually probably the easiest walking bait that I've ever dealt with. If you do not know how to walk the dog, throw this. It is the easiest bait to walk. So it's the Dual Realis Pencil 110. That little chin ball thing right there, I think, seriously helps make it easy to walk. So that. And then the last one that I like to have is a Castaic Cowboy. Now the Cowboy sits a little deeper in the water, and so I don't know, it can be a little harder to walk sometimes. And then I've added a feather on the back, and that can also make it harder to walk. So keep that in mind. It doesn't come stock with a feather on the back. I added that. There's pros and cons of the feather. If I'm working it slow, this gives a little bit of pulse and all that stuff. You may draw an extra strike. If you're working it fast, it's actually a nuisance because it makes it difficult to walk. Not hard to walk the bait, just more difficult than it was stock. So, you know, I have some with feathers, some without, but today this is the feather one is what I was throwing. And I caught a couple off of this. I actually caught fish on all of them except for the Pencil 110 because I didn't throw this today. But I caught fish on all three of those walking baits. Just trying to find which one they wanted more. And honestly, today I caught more on the Yo-Zuri. So that's that. I have multiple walking baits. Sometimes I have multiple walking baits tied on so that I can throw one, work it. If I don't get bit, throw another one out there. Different colors, different sizes. I mean, these guys are keyed in on little tiny shad. And when they're in that mode, sometimes they don't want anything that isn't what they're eating, right? And so what I mean by that is that whole match the hatch thing. If you're throwing, you know, a 110 size bait and they're eating, you know, 40 size baits, then sometimes it's just difficult to get them to commit. So, technique-wise, when I'm walking the dog for these schooling fish, now again, these are schooling fish out in open water. I like to work it fast. I don't want them to take their sweet time and get a chance to look at it. I'm looking for a reaction bite. I don't want them, like, this isn't working down the bank and walking the dog down a bank or whatever. This is literally, I am working that thing fast. I want them to just react on it. You know, I want them to look up and go, I don't know what that is, but I'm eating it. And so that's why these are great. And the one with the feather can be a pain in the butt for that situation. Again, sometimes I will slow it down. If I'm working too fast and they're just not eating, then I'll try that. But with that said, what I won't be throwing this time of year for schooling fish is a popper. I dig throwing poppers, right? I'm cool with it. But I won't be throwing a popper for schooling bass. Again, I'm just trying to get them to react. To me, poppers are more of a targeted thing. These are for like the outside of vegetation or near, a log or whatever, some sort of actual target, not just open water fishing. That's how I fish them. To each their own. I guess, drop a comment, tell me what you think if you fish poppers for schooling open water bass. All right, so that's those. And then for rod, I'm still kind of playing around now that I'm on with Denali. Today I threw everything on their 7.9 medium heavy spinnerbait rod, and I really like it. I think that's probably going to be my topwater rod because it worked out really well. Line. Okay. Most of you guys probably know this. Some of you may not, and that's why I'm going to go into it. Monofilament is better for topwater baits. And braid is good too. However, you won't catch me throwing braid, straight braid, with a treble hook bait. You'll catch me throwing straight braid with, buzz baits and single hook, but I absolutely despise to throw treble hook baits and braid. And the reason for that is braid is so soft and limber that it can get wrapped around the hooks super easy, or actually sometimes if the braid can get, like the hook can split and get stuck in the braid, and then you're dealing with trying to get the braid off through the barb and all that fun stuff. So you're gonna be really hard pressed to find me throwing straight braid with a treble hook sort of topwater bait. Now, but I will throw straight braid and then have a small leader, a foot long, 15-inch long piece of leader material, and that can be fluoro or mono. I know fluoro sinks. Oh my gosh, you should never use fluoro with topwaters. Dude, you're talking 12 to 15 inches. It's not going to make that big of a difference. You can use that, and it gives just a little bit of stiffness to keep your bait away from that braid so you don't get it caught up in the hooks. So that's just my personal thing. So, all right. Another bait that I'm going to have out here with me is a spy bait. And that is for when those fish, if I'm trying to get down to some of those deeper fish. Now, I learned tuna fishing offshore out in the Gulf and in the Atlantic that sometimes the biggest fish are sitting well below the school. And you got all the little ones that are busting and doing all the work, and the big ones are just sitting down underneath, getting fat, dumb, and happy, eating the crumbs that are falling down. Doesn't take any effort, and they can still get just as full. So, in order to get those bigger ones that are sitting down below, I will throw a spy bait. This one happens to be a Dual Realis Spin Bait 80, I think. This is the Spin Bait Alpha. The Spin Bait 80, Spin Bait 90, this is the Alpha. I honestly normally throw the 90. It's a half ounce. You can throw it on bait casters. The Alpha, this is my first time throwing it today. I think I only caught white bass on it today, if I remember right. But I got lots of bites. The only problem that I have with spy baits is you got to throw it on a crankbait rod if you're not used to it, or most guys throwing on a spinner rod. But you got to throw it on a crankbait rod because a lot of these fish just really don't commit, and they'll just grab the back of it. They'll just hit the rear end, and so you don't get a good hook set on them. And so you got to have that softer crankbait sort of rod to keep you from pulling the hooks. Line choice, that's whatever, up to you, whatever you like to throw your crankbaits on. So there you go, spy bait. And then the one that no one really talks about. Oh, you know what? I'll have a swim jig with me occasionally too, unless I'm like way out in like 100 feet of water or whatever. But if they're busting kind of near the shore, then I might throw a swim bait or a swim jig. Sorry, a swim jig. All right, and then the one that no one ever talks about. And I've been doing this for years, and I have so much fun doing it, and I don't see anybody else doing this. And that is a Biffle Head, a wobble head, right? With a Strike King Baby Rage Menace on the back. And what I'm doing is I'm casting this thing out. If they're, they're blowing up, whatever, sometimes they'll smoke it as soon as it lands and it's just like a topwater bite, right? Other times it gets through the school down deep to get those bigger, fatter fish down, they're sitting down below. And so it's a dying shad. It falls down, it's kicking, it's doing a little business with these little kickers. And you can let it sink all the way to the bottom and just rip it up really fast. And then it darts up and then you kill it again and it falls back down. And they will flat out smoke this thing. In fact, the biggest fish I caught today happened to be on this, and it was on like my 3rd or 4th cast after I had this on. A little better fish. So guys, that's actually what I'm talking about. How's that one? But you'll also get some short fish, and you will burn through a bunch of rage menaces because they sometimes will just rip the tail off. But again, that's the baby rage menace, because again, I'm chasing bait that's 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, and the baby menace is the smallest one I can find. And always in a pearl or some sort of shad pattern, because I'm going after shad eaters. Hopefully that makes sense. And drop a comment if you've ever tried that before. I've done it on the river, I've done it here on Washita, I've done it on Hamilton. It works everywhere. So, Dardanelle, yeah. Anyway, that's that. And the reason I use a wobble head is, instead of like an open, regular jig head, is because typically when I'm throwing this, I mean, you're on Washita, there's a bunch of trees and stuff. And so I think if I just use a regular exposed hook jig head, it's going to get stuck in the trees every other cast. I'm going to go through a bunch of terminal tackle. So if I can expose it like that, then I won't lose as many wobble heads, and still catch as many fish, if that makes sense. As for rigging it, right now I have it rigged vertically so that it's kicking like a little fish, but sometimes I will rig it horizontally so it has that more of that craw pattern. It does make it sink a little bit slower. So again, it's kind of all about playing around, what they seem to want better. Today they wanted this way, but they were flat out smoking it. Sometimes I'd just cast it out and just reel it back, just burn it back, and they would flat out annihilate it. And that's that, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button right down there along with the bell notification button so you get notified every single time I put out a video. Guys, I need help growing this channel. Please invite your friends, share the stuff. I'm kind of stuck, and I really want to grow the channel. I mean, I don't need to be, huge like Turkla with millions of subscribers, but I enjoy teaching people how to fish, and so this is what I want to do, guys. So please help me and share these videos with friends and coworkers and whatever. Anyway, that's that, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button right down there along with the bell notification button so you get notified every single time I put out another video. If you guys have any questions, please drop them down below, or any other input, please drop that down below. And as always, get out of the water, be safe, and go stick some lips.